Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will be starting sharply at 9:30. So in 5 minutes, we will get kicked off with our live stream. If you'd like to get some pictures of the panelists now, I'd prefer not to have people walking into our live stream shot to take pictures. So please do grab your images now, and we will be starting promptly at 9:30. Thank you. One last opportunity to grab a quick coffee before we get kicked off.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My clock says we've got 1 minute to get seated. Lawrence, just quickly. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, could you kindly put your phones in silent? We're about to start.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Much, much better. Welcome to IOL's elections panel discussion for elections 2024. Welcome to the Radisson Blue Gautrain. This event is being live streamed to our audiences across all of our IOL platforms. So if you'd like to also catch up on the stream at a later stage, it will be available on IOL's YouTube channel, on IOL's main platform, as well as all of our social media platforms. I'm looking forward to a very robust discussion this morning. Here present with us, we have representatives from political parties across the spectrum. They will have an opportunity to share with you their vision for the province. There will also be an opportunity for questions from the floor. May I ask that the questions be directed at an individual representative as far as possible. Please try to please try to be succinct in asking your questions. Be very direct and pointed in the questions that you are posing. And to our panelists, I'm sure that you are very used to keeping your responses within provincial legislature timeframes. So I thank you for that. Thank you very much for honoring the invitation to our panelists as well. I'm very glad and grateful to see so many of our political parties represented here at our Gauteng event. Without much further ado, I'd like to introduce our Chief Executive Officer of IOL, Mr. Vyasan Subramani, and he will do a word of welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Before I got here this morning, I was thinking about wearing a tie, but I thought it might be a problem. I couldn't decide what color. This is why we have all of our political parties here. We'd like to welcome all of them, and a word of thanks again for accepting the invite. This election is extremely important. It's important for our country. It's important for democracy. And I think it provides a vital opportunity for citizens to make their voices heard. And with that in mind, IOL decided to put together these panels in the 3 provinces that we have a major presence in. We had our event in KwaZulu-Natal on Wednesday, this event here in Gauteng today, and on the 30th in Cape Town. So a quick word of welcome. I'm not going to take up too much of the time. I think all of the time needs to be spent engaging with the panel. But on behalf of IOL, South Africa's leading media platform, I would like to welcome you here today, and we're looking forward to a robust and engaging discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Vyasan. Let's get the show on the road. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sihle Mlambo. I'm the content manager for IOL News. I'm going to introduce the panel quickly. To my left is Ms. Tasneem Motara. She's the Economic Development MEC here in Gauteng. Next to Tasneem is Mr. Michael Beaumont, the chairperson of the Action SA. Next to Michael is Bishop Dalton Adams from the ACDP. Immediately next to Michael is Thabiseng Chivenga, the Speaker of the Ekurhuleni Municipality, representing the EFF. To her left is Mr. Kenny Kunene, the Deputy President of the Patriotic Alliance. And then next to Mr. Kunene is Vuyiswa Ramakgopa from Rise Mzansi. She's the Premier candidate for Gauteng. Immediately next to Rise Mzansi, we have Zandile Majozi from the Inkatha Freedom Party. And finally, we've got Refilwe Njeke from the Democratic Alliance. Now, just some quick house rules. We're going to have an opening round. Each of the 8 political parties on stage will have an opportunity to outline their vision for Johannesburg. And after that, we'll have 2 hot button issues, and then we'll open the floor to you guys. So, to the ANC first, you've got 3 minutes to outline how you intend to grab the lion's share of the 5 million votes available in Gauteng. What are your promises, and what have you achieved?
Thank you so much, and good morning to everybody who's here. So the ANC, stands for, and its strategic objective, which is its priority is that we want to create a South Africa that is united, it's democratic, prosperous, non-sexist, and non-racist. And we premise everything that we do to be able to achieve that. We've outlined our manifesto for the next 5 years, and our manifesto speaks to 6 priorities. Our first priority is a jobs plan, putting South Africans to work using both legislation but also policy to be able to do that. Our second is to support industrialization as well as develop infrastructure. We know that government spending has reduced on infrastructure, but we're going to increase that using public-private partnerships, using the money that we have in the fiscus to be able to do that, and to do this also so that we can grow an inclusive economy. Our third priority is to tackle the high cost of living and provide income support. Especially in Gauteng, we understand and we know the fact that our cost of living has increased through various factors. And for Gauteng residents especially, this is very important and very key. Our fourth priority in our manifesto is to advance social transformation and invest in people. That's about just increasing what we have done in the social space, investing in people, building very strong public institutions, using professionals, building strong public administration to be able to do that. Our fifth priority is to advance and defend the gains of our freedom and democracy. And it's because of those, that very strong democracy that we have, that we are able to have such a robust election period, 30 years after our first. And our last priority that was outlined in our manifesto is to build a better Africa and a world. It speaks to our relationship with international fora, what we feel should be done to strengthen them, make them more representative, where it spells out our view and our perspective on Africa, fostering and strengthening and really implementing the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, the institutions, international institutions like United Nations, making reforms and making them real institutions for international cooperation, but also a more free and equitable world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Action SA. Action SA is obviously running in the national and provincial elections for the first time. Mr. Beaumont, what's your vision for Gauteng?
Yes, certainly. I think Gauteng plays such an important role in our country. I think for South Africa to succeed, Gauteng has to succeed. And from our point of view, that means a number of very important steps need to be taken. I think any government involving Gauteng is going to begin with the work that Herman Mashaba did in Johannesburg, and that is to identify the perks and luxuries and wastages of government and redirect that money to where it needs to be. In Johannesburg, 2 billion rand was identified from self-promoting advertising, international travel, conferencing, and all the other wastages that have become commonplace. And that needs to be pushed into the infrastructure priorities of the province, and that needs to be the focus. From our point of view, we know that provincial government predominantly centers around the issues of education and healthcare. Around education, there's no question that we need to be working around our school infrastructure. We need to ensure that our classrooms and learning environments are the built environment where education can succeed. We need to ensure that supply of services to those facilities improves, and that we are modernizing our schooling system to prepare young people for a world where IT infrastructure and the like is really a vital part of the future economy of our country and the world in general. From our point of view, healthcare is a major bone of contention. We fundamentally differ with the view that NHI is the solution to the problems, and certainly standing in front of the province and saying that people can go into these facilities on the 30th of May, I think was gravely irresponsible, especially from a ANC provincial government that has done nothing to fix the public healthcare system. The public healthcare system is broken, and it needs to be addressed by taking politics out of the healthcare system, putting professionals who are capable of running hospitals and clinics into those places. And I think a little bit more needs to be spent on putting doctors and nurses, many of whom sit at home unemployed, into these places rather than, let's call it, some of the cosmetic employment programs we've seen in the last few months. But certainly the road network of Gauteng remains a major challenge. The deterioration of that network has been a rapid decline in recent times. More needs to be invested, particularly to improve that road network and to create the environment generally that is going to be good for the economy of Gauteng. I certainly think that more needs to be done in the area of public safety. There's no question it's a national competency. But I think firstly, Gauteng needs to step up to the plate. This buddy-buddy relationship between provincial and national government that is predicated on the idea that we're all from the same party and therefore we get along to go along must be brought to an end, and we need to fight for the residents of this province. The residents of this province need provincial policing. We need dedicated policing who understands the issues associated with the crime challenges in this province, and specialized units that tackle the fundamental challenges we have around drug dealing, infrastructure theft and damage, etc. And the last point that I want to make on this question is around municipalities. I fundamentally
Thank you so much, Mr. Piermont.
I put forward that broken municipalities are the biggest problem in our country, and provincial government needs to step up to the plate.
Next up, we have Bishop Adams from the ACDP. The ACDP is no stranger to Gauteng. They already have one seat from the previous elections. Mr. Bishop Adams, what's your promise?
Thank you, Zitlek. Good morning, everybody, and to my fellow panelists here this morning. Gauteng is a tale of two cities, really, if you can put it like that. Coming from the area of the West Rand, where I live and where our constituency is, you find that the people live in abject poverty, crime-ridden, roads that are not serviced, you're looking at sewage that is running in the streets, schools that are overcrowded. And then you come across the highway and you get into this area and you look like you're in a European country. So I think what needs to happen firstly in Gauteng, when we take over as the ACDP, and to assist government in this instance to make sure that you bridge the divide that is between the peoples of South Africa. And I think the cohesion is missing. And I think my fellow panelist, Michael Beaumont, mentioned the issue of the disjuncture between provincial and municipal governments. And COCTA must play a very important role, and I think it must be redressed at the Department of COCTA to make sure that the municipalities actually function better. Because the municipalities are actually the main ones that must make sure that service delivery is enacted and affected in our communities. And because that is not happening, you find that service is not happening for the people. And it seems like this tale of two cities actually, in a first world and third world Gauteng, you find that the people in that area doesn't get the services that they require. So the issue of crime is what we need to look at as the ACDP very seriously. Gun violence in our communities is a daily occurrence. Shootings, people every day. Day before yesterday, a mother and a father was shot in their faces in our community. And we feel that the SAPS is doing nothing, but we want to make an appeal that the ACDP says very strongly that community policing must be strongly advocated and structured, where we have to reactivate, mobilize communities to make sure that the CPFs and the patrollers and everybody that must make sure that they take hold of their streets to eradicate drugs in our communities is very critical. On the issue of education, we believe as the ACDP that we need to pay our teachers more and bring back the calling for teachers. That teachers mustn't see this as a job, but see it as a calling. The effect of unions in schools must be looked at seriously, that the unions have a strong hand in the schools. That must seriously be looked at. The skills development of our children is a critical component that we as the ACDP need to look at, to reopen again the colleges that was closed so that we are able to again skill our people. I think as the ACDP we believe we have a plan, and our plan is to rebuild Gauteng for all the citizens of Gauteng, not just for some.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have the EFF. You've got Speaker Chivenga. What's your vision for Gauteng?
Thank you very much. I think the realization that we all need to come to is that Gauteng is very congested. and small. You literally can go across the street from one region to the other. And this means there's no reason why you should have a provincial and a municipal government in Gauteng that is separated. What is needed and what the EFF proposes is that we need to have legislation that declares Gauteng as a province, including its municipalities, as a special economic zone. As a special economic zone in the sense that the provincial government's budget, and together with its 5 municipalities, accounts to about 500 trillion rand of its fiscus. That's about $28 trillion. That's a lot of money. You can go anywhere in the world. You can go to Davos, you can go to China and whatever. With that type of money, you'll be able to revive industry. You'll be able to get the so needed interconnected railway network that is needed to revive our economy. Gauteng accounts for about 33.1% of our GDP, which is bigger than that of KZN and the Western Cape. So it is very clear that Gauteng, with that type of contribution to the GDP, needs a revival in the job sector. We need to reduce unemployment in Gauteng. And the solution of the EFF is that those industries that we are speaking of that can be protected by a state-led intervention should give us a maximum of around 2 million jobs. The insourcing of security guards that will guard state-owned infrastructure, that both municipal and provincial infrastructure, can lead to a massive, massive drop in the unemployment rate. Equally, we need to ensure that we have in-sourced engineers and people that are doing social housing initiatives. Social housing requires also, as well as the roads network, they require maintenance, they require development. So once we in-source, we are able to give our people around 2 million jobs that are quality and sustainable jobs that account for at least half of what the unemployment rate is currently. So we are very clear that we need to revive the manufacturing sector. We know some of the manufacturing sites are very dormant here because we are not getting enough support for government. Insourcing, reviving the manufacturing sector, and intensive labor industries. That is the solution of the EFF.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Kenny Kunene from the Patriotic Alliance. The Patriotic Alliance is another new party in terms of the provincial and national elections. Mr. Kunene, what's the vision for the Patriotic Alliance for the people of Gauteng?
Thank you very much, Program Director. I am also the MMC of Roads and Transport in the city of Johannesburg. I am also the premier candidate for Gauteng for the Patriotic Alliance. Number one, Gauteng is an economic hub of South Africa. Gauteng attracts or was built on mining. We have seen the proliferation of zamazamas in Gauteng. Most of the mines in Gauteng still have a lot of gold that can be mined and jobs created. Industrialization is very important. As we revive these mines, we must then be able to beneficiate all the gold that is mined and make sure that the end product is manufactured here in South Africa. We have factories around Gauteng, in Tshwane, in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni. The biggest problem to unemployment is that these factories, as part of their agreement with the South African monopolies, was to open borders so that they can employ illegal immigrants and South Africans are not employed. Slave labor is being practiced in these factories. We have seen marches in Tshwane where South Africans are taking illegal immigrants out of these factories. So to address the issue of employment in the short term is to make sure as the premier that all the factories are audited, and where we find illegal immigrants, we then institute the law to deal with the owners of those factories. But we must deport all those illegal immigrants so that South Africans can be employed. Government does not do maintenance of public buildings, public roads, bridges. Now, as we speak, I have written a business case to the president of this country and the premier that only 8% of Johannesburg bridges are in an excellent condition. 92% can collapse anytime. None of them have responded to that call. But if you are going to employ young people in each and every ward as a short-term solution, giving them permanent solution to do maintenance of roads, to clean schools, to clean hospitals, to clean police stations, to clean all the public buildings that we have, libraries, you are going to create thousands and thousands of jobs in the short term. In the long term, we need to then revive the construction industry. And not just revive it with the monopolies that have been playing a bigger part in the construction, but also building, assisting entrepreneurs in the construction building. Many buildings are hijacked. We need to reclaim those buildings back. We need to do public-private partnerships so that we can then respond to the issue of housing and construction.
We'll definitely
Thank you.
come back to the construction issue. Next up, we have Rise Mzansi. We've got Vuyisa Ramakopa, another new candidate for the people of Gauteng. Rise Mzansi, what's your promise to the people of this province?
Thank you, Sihle, and good morning to everybody. As it has been stated, I am the Gauteng Premier candidate for Rise Mzansi, and I'm proud to say, as a party, we have two of our three Premier candidates this year are women and young women under the age of 40. So let me start by saying that as Rise Mzansi, we understand that our fundamental problem and why we are failing to grow our economy, why we are failing to arrest the rising crime rate, and why we are failing to deal decisively with corruption and criminality in the public sector is because we have poor, weak leadership that we have elected. We have people that are elected to do very important work of making and implementing policy on behalf of us and the future generations and our children who are just wholly incompetent and not up to the job. And that is why Rise Mzansi has set about on a mission to primarily restore the state of leadership and governance, not just in the province, but in the country. And so I will set about and share with you some of our ideas. As I've stated, we understand unemployment is obviously a major issue. It's a function of an economy that's not growing. Our economy cannot grow because the people that we have tasked with policy making are not effecting any industrial policy that is able to enable our economy to grow. We have high crime levels. 35 people are being murdered in our country a day. And we have unthinkable levels of corruption. If you read the various AG's report, we now use the euphemism irregular expenditure. That is just missing money that people cannot account for. So let me come to our plan for Gauteng. We recently launched the Tsuga plan, which is Tsuga Gauteng. And this plan sets about 5 key pillars. One, it talks about cleaning out this government that is corrupt and incompetent, dealing one by one, position by position, and ensuring that we do an audit of all skills in government at an executive level and at a legislature level to ensure that we have the best people leading in government. We also need to deal with the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. I was talking to some of our colleagues today, and many of our parents and even ourselves, we come from township areas, or our parents were part of the wave of forced removals that took place. And yet, this government in 30 years has failed to undo the patterns of spatial division that we experience. And it's not just undoing it for the sake of it. It affects the cost of living because people now have to travel far to get to work. They use 40% of their income to get to work. And that gets me to the second point. We want to restore public transport because that is fundamental to how we grow this economy and deal with issues of cost of living.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ramakopa. Your time is up. Next up, we have Zandile Majosi from the Inkatha Freedom Party. What's the IFP's vision for the people of Gauteng, Ms. Majosi?
Thank you, Mr. Mlambo, and good morning to everyone in the room. As the IFP, firstly, we are calling on Gauteng communities to join us as we create a government that will be accountable, that will be transparent, and that we want to rebuild on trust. As we know that Gauteng is as diverse in its industries found as the people that live in it. So we've got the likes of mining, finance, your business services, logistics and communication. So Gauteng is very conducive for investors to come and invest. But we have to deal with two pandemics that we have in South Africa and especially in Gauteng. The pandemic of load shedding. Businesses cannot function because there's load shedding, there's 6 hours of no electricity, and now businesses will have to now spend on terms of gas and having generators and so forth. So as the IFP want to deal with the load shedding by making sure that we get rid of the mismanagement in the ESCOM sector, and we make sure that we professionalize the ESCOM in bringing also private companies to deal with the issues of load shedding and making sure that we've got solar panels so that we reduce the load of load shedding. Also, our another pandemic is crime. We've got a high rate of crime in Gauteng, and there's no one that wants to invest in a province where there's a high rate of crime. There's looting, there's everything. Who wants to lose their money? So as the IFP was saying, we must work with 3 spheres of government. We must make sure that the powers that are national, when it comes to crime, they must be decentralized. All resources must be sent to municipalities, to provinces, so that each and every province and municipality is able to deal with its nature of crime. And you give them the power then to be able to resource what is it that they need actually in their own municipalities and provinces. We must deal with the issue of unemployment as it has a high rate, not only on young youth, but also on the people from 35 to 50. They're unemployed. What do you do with them? Because they don't qualify to be pensioners. So you create that conducive environment for them to be able to also get employment and be able to receive salaries so they feed their own families. And we also deal with the issue of 80-20 rule. We want 80% of jobs to be for South Africans, and we can then secure 20% only when it is necessary because we've got scarce skills and so forth.
Thank
and
you so much,
IFP
Ms.
want to
Majosi.
partner with communities in
Time is
Gauteng
up.
to rebuild a conducive environment for it to work with government
you, ma'am.
and private sector.
And next up, we've got Ms. Refilo Njeke from the Democratic Alliance, which is the official opposition in Gauteng. Ms. Njeke, how do you become the next Premier of Gauteng as the DA?
Thank you very much. I'm not the premier candidate, so
Your part.
Simang is. So I'm standing here representing DA views in terms of how we're going to rescue South Africa. South Africa, the first thing that DA wants to start with the crime, we want to start with devolution of the police. You want to bring police closer to the people. We know the crime stats. If I give you an example, as a political head for Tembisa, one of our police stations is ranked 6th in the country for GBV. And you will not have a proper strategy unless you understand the dynamics of Gauteng, not a national strategy. We want to build infrastructure that talks to fighting water shedding. We know how many people have been struggling with water outages. Some people up to today, more than 30 days, have not had water. So we have a plan to ensure we fight water shedding. And then we want to find the energy crisis that South Africa is facing, which is something that we've already started doing in the city of Cape Town, where we started buying electricity from individuals and companies. So also bring in private-public partnerships to ensure that we look at renewable energies so that we have more electricity going into the grid so that we can have more energy for South Africa. And yes, we will continue using a bit of coal until we can transition properly to renewable energies. Then we want to start building businesses. Don't be impressed when you drive on the R21. I live in Kempton. When you see a lot of warehouses, it's not because we are manufacturing, it's because we are importing. We've destroyed our industry in South Africa. So we need to look at Ekurhuleni as an industrial hub where we start manufacturing. That alone can go a long way to creating jobs in South Africa. But nobody will come and have jobs as a company investing in South Africa if your infrastructure is not right, if your electricity is not right, if your water is not right, and other areas are not right, you're definitely not going to have investors. We lost a company a couple of years ago when I was a councillor in Ekurhuleni that could have employed 3,000 people. They chose to go to Mozambique because they had a steady electricity supply. That's 3,000 jobs that were lost to Ekurhuleni and South Africa at large. Then we believe in ensuring that we bring in a clean government, and I say to you, Mr. Sihle, we absolutely want to enforce that we don't have catered deployment, because that is actually what is killing our governments. Then we want to make sure in education our children can read for meaning and teachers can be tested to ensure that they're competent to be teachers and in the classroom Monday to Friday, ensuring that our kids get the skills that they need for tomorrow to be able to help themselves. Then we look at the issues of health. If we can start eradicating things like corruption, an example, Tembisa Hospital, where we had 2,000 skinny jeans bought and a hospital bill. You want to make sure you buy what you need for a hospital and absolutely protect and look after the vulnerable of our society. Thank you, Mr. Sihle.
Thank you so much. And with that, our opening statements are done. Could you give a warm hand or round of applause to them? Okay, now we're going to get into some of the hot button issues arising from some of your opening statements. And we're going to go to the IFP first. We're going to tackle the issue of crime. The third quarter crime statistics from the South African Police Service, specific to Gauteng, we had 1,700 murders. We also had over 2,000 kidnappings in the province of Gauteng. This is obviously a key area of concern. How do we address this going forward? So, the IFP, how do you tackle crime? You've got 1 minute to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Sihle. As I had said before, that we want to decentralize the powers of police into municipalities so that each and every municipality can know of its hotspots where all these crimes are taking place, and the provinces will be able also to bring on resources to make sure that they take care of their own crimes. But in terms of us dealing with that, we want to have specialized courts that will deal mainly with issues of gender-based violence. We want to have specialized officers that will be trained in order for them to be able to deal with the issues of investigation and so forth, because it all goes lost there. We get lost in the midst of us finding out what happened and what is really happening. And also have mobile police stations in each and every corner that we can have, so that each and every municipality is able to employ or bring more police force into the ground and to be able to have more police force so that our people will feel safe at all times.
Thank you so much, IFP. Mr. Kenny Gunen, how do you as the PA tackle crime? Just to give you a bit more context, we also have very violent crimes, including assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. That's obviously when you assault somebody with an object and injure them. On top of that, we've got high levels of gender-based violence. How does the Patriotic Alliance solve this problem for the people of Gauteng? 1 minute, sir.
Thank you very much. The problem with fighting crime in this country is because the police are a service. A service is a desk work that you do. We must bring law and order. We must fight fire with fire. Kidnapping is primarily not a crime committed by South Africans. 90% of the crimes that are resolved where people have paid ransom When police arrest, you find that Mozambicans, Siberians, and so on are involved. So we need to establish task teams that will deal with these crimes. We need to go to the hotspots. Illegal buildings harbor drugs, human trafficking, stolen goods. So we need to go and reclaim those buildings. But as we arrest, we also need to then say we need to change our justice system, how it speaks to sentencing and convictions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gunene. Your time is up. Let's take the next question to the ANC. Premier Panyaza Lesufi has formed the community crime wardens, which are popularly known as Amapanyaza. Is this the solution to crime for the people of Gauteng?
So what our solution to the crime of the people in Gauteng is really threefold. It's about increasing human resources, so the Amapanyaza is one part of it. The second is to increase the budget that is allocated to community safety, which we have done in the past financial year. And the third is the use of technology in partnership with the private sector. The use of technology is, for instance, the use of drones, capacitating our command center or response center, enabling people to have direct contact using applications for reporting or calling on those who enforce the law. So we're going to expand on that. But if you don't use technology, if you don't use intelligence, private sector investment as well, and strengthen community structures, you're not going to resolve the issue of crime, because criminals are harbored in our communities, and in many, if not most instances, criminals are known to those in
Thank you so much, Mr. Hasneem. Mr. Michael Beaumont for the Action SA, right next to Ms. Mutara. Are the Panyazas the solution?
No, the Panyazas are the solution to the ANC's electoral problems, and that's what it's really about. But I think from the point of view of serious policing, we need to be real. There needs to be the decentralizing of policing that's been mentioned. There has to be the capacitation. We need to recruit more policemen and women into our country, into our police service, so that we can ensure that those boots on the ground are generating real law enforcement. But also it's got to be moving towards a scenario of prosecution. There are so many cases where arrests are being made and yet people do not end up in prison because our prosecutorial services are fundamentally overwhelmed. You've got prosecutors with 200, 300 dockets on their desks. There's no way they're going to be able to deal with those problems. We need specialized units. We need specialized courts to ensure that we get quicker justice and justice that is specialized to very particular forms of crime that are unique in their nature. But certainly from our point of view, we think there has to be changes nationally. We need to change minimum sentencing laws in this country so that with violent offenders, life means life. We throw away the key and you never come out to hurt another South
Thank you so
African
much,
again.
Action SA. Bishop Adams for the ACDP, what's your answer to crime?
Look, my answer concerning the CPW's crime prevention ordinance is a very balanced one in terms of what the Premier actually rolled out for Gauteng in particular. And let me tell you why I say that is because in our communities, I earlier alluded to the fact that community policing is absolutely non-existent. Through my lived experiences, I have actually walked with this whole program and seen how lives have been changed in terms of them actually getting an opportunity. Unemployment is a major crisis in our communities. In fact, the pockets of unemployment in colored communities is actually much higher if you look at Johannesburg in particular. So the crime prevention wardens, as they walk the streets of Westbury and Eldos and Annandale and Rege Park, the successes they have had in terms of just changing and bringing about peace in our streets is massive. I do believe that more training needs to be done for the CPWs.
Thank you so much. To the EFF, Speaker Chivenga, are the Panyazas the answer?
The Panyazas are certainly not the answer, but they are part of a solution. What is critical is that we need to ensure that we get all these guns that are in the streets off the streets. We need a mechanism where we will go door to door and get illegal guns off the street. We need to have an adequately trained police force that has enough skills to be able to tackle some of these crimes. And equally, we need to ensure, and unemployment is the root of all these problems that we're having in this country. The use of technology can be used to assist in crime. We need to have surveillance throughout all our CBDs to ensure that the camera systems are able to see these pickpocketers and whoever is committing crime. And equally, we need to strengthen our detective services. We need to have people that can do a proper investigation in order for the judiciary system to be able to get a credible investigated
Thank
cases.
you so much to the
Thank you
EFF.
very much.
Now we're going to go to the DA, Ms. Ncheke, and I see a lot of alignment and thought here, but we'll come back to that later. The DA, how do we solve the crime problem in Gauteng?
I think, first of all, we need to look at a whole of society approach. The fact that we went and got the Panyazas sidelining community patrollers, reservists, and security companies who were already doing police work in terms of assisting is somewhere we needed to have really rather started. Because if you started there, these are people who were already in the space of operating in the police space. And we've always said, bring police to the province, do devolution, use technology, have intelligence. So you have trends of hotspots and what's happening with crime. And then you need to also look at the scrapyards of police vehicles. We should have better police trained police, so you don't have so many cars in scrapyards. And then in addition, professionalize your police services right up to even the financial officer in the police service, where if a car goes for service, it doesn't sit for 90 days as we are seeing now in Gauteng. You can have, if I take my car for service, it goes in the morning, at 4 o'clock I get picked up and I get my car from the repair.
Thank you so much,
And
Ms.
that
Ncheke.
denies South Africans the right for visible policing.
So we've heard everybody on crime. Oh, I'm so sorry, Rise Mzansi. So sorry.
Hey. Yeah, I think so.
We'll make it 2 seconds. Go ahead, Ms. Ramakopa.
Okay, so there are really 3 pillars for us. Number 1, we must deal with the root causes of crime, primarily drug addiction and drug abuse, youth unemployment and the general hopelessness that our people are feeling from the high levels of unemployment, and number 3, alcohol abuse. There is a direct correlation with gender-based violence and alcohol abuse in our communities and many other social ills. So we need to have social support programs to deal with the root causes. Number 2, we must professionalize the SAPs and professionalize the police force. Adding more unqualified, incompetent, corrupt policemen does not solve the crime problem. We all know, you walk into a police station, somebody can't even write the docket. Even if they write the docket up for you, the docket gets lost and it doesn't even make it to prosecution. So we need to root out corruption that we know is in the SAPs, because the point that's been made is people often know who the criminals are. The policemen are part of the system. We must root out corruption in the police and set up independent body that can prosecute and investigate police expeditiously, and they should be getting
Thank you so much,
the
Rise
biggest
Mzansi.
and longest sentence, because they are supposed
Thank
to
you,
be
ma'am.
protecting us.
I did give you an extra 2 seconds. The next question, let's go to the DA first. The question is relating to service delivery in respect of the provinces. Do we still need the provinces?
You absolutely do, because when you don't have provincial spheres, then you're going to lose who manages your healthcare, your education, and hospitals, as an example. So you need to have your provinces to also manage the spend of infrastructure by municipalities. A lot of the problems we see now in government is that a lot of our municipalities, if I take Mfuleni as an example, when they get an infrastructure grant, because they haven't got a way of making sure that they are collecting revenue through their services, they end up taking the infrastructure grant, which is meant to fix pipes and make sure the people of Mfuleni have clean drinking water to pay salaries. So that's where your COCTA becomes a real need at a provincial level, because your national COCTA will not look after the 230 odd municipalities you have around the country. So the province is closer to your municipal governments to ensure that governments are operating optimally to deliver municipal governments are operating optimally to deliver services to the people in the municipalities.
Thank you so much. IFP, do we still need the provinces?
Of course, we do need the three spheres of government. They must speak to each other because national must then legislate the policies and so forth. And when we come to the province takes care of its needs. It legislates where the province is, especially in Gauteng. And then when you go to municipalities, that is where the service delivery is happening. But the legislations and the policies are happening in the provinces and national. And also the fact that the funds that will be coming from national cannot directly go to the municipalities, but they must go to the provinces because we've got different and various districts in each and every province. So it can't be that national will then take care of all these municipalities. The maintenance of pipes that will be happening in terms of water, electricity, and so forth. So we do need that for the service delivery, especially in housing. Housing is a broad department.
Thank you so much, IFP. Ms. Ramakopa, we're going to go back to you. We're going to give you 1 minute this time. We've got three spheres of government, the local, the province, and national. You are running as the premier candidates for Gauteng. Of course you want the promise, right?
So the bulk of our lived experience as citizens is felt at a local government level. So while we do need provinces, because they play a very critical role in ensuring strategic coherence in the region, that cannot be done at a national level. However, that being said, we must strengthen our local municipalities and strengthen them in terms of the best and most skilled people actually should be at local council. We need to ensure that people are paid adequately at local council so that we can attract the right skills into local municipalities. And of course, the province has a role of ensuring coordination and integration between the various municipalities as part of the cooperative governance mandate, which we know is currently not being done effectively because people are playing politics. Do I get change?
You had 15 seconds to go.
Can I use it next time?
Unfortunately not. We're going to skip the PA and we're going to jump to the EFF, which is writing feverishly there on their notebook. Do we still need the provinces?
I was very clear in the beginning that as the EFF, we believe that we do not need provinces. And we do have a couple of models that are available internationally, your Tokyo, your New York. Having, abolishing provinces will allow us to have more money to spend. We've related the example that the provincial government of Gauteng, together with its 5 municipalities, big municipalities, account for 500 trillion of budget. So that money can go a long way into ensuring that we have big infrastructure projects. It will also ensure that we reduce that type of model they call a global city region. So we will reduce the number of public representatives that are in Gauteng, which will allow more money to go towards service delivery. It will centralize spending. It will centralize even having grants that will ensure that we equally have more money for service delivery.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to the PA, to Mr. Kunene.
Thank you very much.
Do we need the provinces, sir?
I think the DA and the ANC must go for a serious workshop on these intergovernmental relations of the three spheres of government. And I'm talking from experience. We are in a coalition era. And the DA and the ANC have been used to a situation where when they are in the province, at local municipality, it is also them that are governing. Now, a practical example, in the Western Cape, where the DA is not in a coalition, the province frustrates the municipalities, and it does not channel grants to the municipalities that it does not govern. Equally, in Gauteng, it is the same thing. As I said, that I have written a business case on the rehabilitation of the roads and bridges of Johannesburg. But the province decided to give the whole grant to Mfuleni to do 40 roads and gave nothing to Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, and the city of Johannesburg because transport is under the Patriotic Alliance and not under the ANC. So as the premier, you need to take politics outside of your mandate
Thank you
and
so
be
much,
able
sir.
to
Time
assist
is
local
up.
municipalities to achieve their mandate of service delivery.
Thank you, Mr. Kunene. Bishop Adams, do you agree with Mr. Kunene to solve the problems? Provinces?
I think in the city of Joburg, they must first stop the 10 cars, 10 bodyguards for a mayor and 8 bodyguards for a speaker and 8 cars and 5 cars. And I think that will be the first thing they have to deal with. But in terms of the disjuncture, I'm going to reiterate my point with regards province. For me, is important. If you do not have province, then we all will be joining the unemployment line sitting here today. But what is important also is to the oversight mechanism of province is important. You cannot dump money, grants to local governments and don't check what that money is spent for. That money is not being used for what it's supposed to. And the oversight mechanism is that we give millions to local governments, but nobody checks if that money is spent correctly. So in my view is that the province is needed to make sure that service delivery is done. The oversight mechanism is critical for
Thank you,
provinces.
Bishop
Thank you.
Adams. Bishop Adams says, keep the provinces so we can keep our jobs. Actually, they say, should we keep the provinces?
Absolutely, but we need a different kind of province. I think there is so much that is being held in our government at a national government level that's created an hourglass, where the responsibilities are largely nationally and locally, and provincial governments constitutionally are really only empowered around education and healthcare. And I think we need to see a decentralizing of many functions. We've spoken about policing as a good example, to a provincial level, so that provincial government, the residents of a province get more bang for their buck for a provincial government. I also think we need to ensure that provincial government is playing a much stronger role in the oversight of municipalities. The biggest problems that South Africans are facing today is the sewage running through their street, the water not coming out of their pipes, and the power not going on when they flick the switch. And provincial government has to play a much stronger role in dealing with dysfunctional municipalities. And from an Action SA standpoint, we need to end this buddy-buddy relationship between spheres of government or tiers of government. And a provincial government in Gauteng must come in and bulldoze municipalities that are not delivering and place them under the
Thank
hard
you.
kind of
Actually, sir, your
administration,
time is up.
not the soft kind of administration that we see currently.
All right, now to the governing party, the ANC. You've had 30 years. These are your mandated structures. Do we need constitutional amendments in relation to the provinces?
So no, we don't need constitutional amendments. What we do need, so yes, we do need, yes, we do need provinces, but what we do need is both national and provincial government to be strengthened to give added support to municipalities where it needs to, not just from an IGR perspective or an intergovernmental relation perspective, but so we shouldn't have national and provincial government just focusing on policy without actually getting into spaces where municipalities are unable, for various reasons, to be able to provide services. The other aspect is, which we are looking at, is the structure and model of municipalities. Some municipalities, they are just not viable, simply because of the structure of a municipality. They have got low income bases. You have people that, in essence, can't pay rates and taxes. Municipalities are income-based. They are supposed to generate their own income to be able to pay their own services, provide services, etc.
Thank you so much to the ANC. And with that, time is up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the representatives. We will now be taking some questions from the floor. May I ask that we keep our questions pointed? They are directed at a particular candidate. And then to the representatives, please keep your responses to 1 minute. I see one hand up over here. Sakiwa? Yeah.
Thank you. Isabel Fryer from Social Policy Initiative. My question will go to EFF. We have 12 million people unemployed in South Africa. We've got poverty affecting 33 million people. We're the highest income inequality and wealth inequality in the country. Currently, we've heard a lot about the need to reindustrialize. We don't have local demand. We don't have local demand because people don't have money. Now, one of the policies that have been advocated by civil society, including mine, is a universal basic income of 1,500 Rand, which goes to everybody. It doesn't come back if you earn over a certain amount, because that discourages people. Now, what I saw in your manifesto, which I was reading last night, is a strong antithesis towards social grants. And I mean, this goes for most of the parties. The sense is dependency. My question, I mean, my point on that would be, if grants create dependency, why are those 12 million people not creating their own jobs right now? Now, from the research that we've done, we've shown that if everybody gets a universal basic income, there will be jobs and there will be the kind of economic flow that you need. Why is the EFF so adamant that it will not consider universal basic income? And secondly, how will you actually get 12 million people working if you don't consider that putting money in the pockets of individuals makes them into economic activists? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. EFF, let's hear.
No, thank you very much. The EFF, in our manifesto, we are advocating that because of the economy that is not growing, what should be viable now is to give some sort of grant to graduates, because graduates have gone through some sort of level of education, and they are employable, and they need that money to be able to do their basics in terms of looking for jobs and all that. This does not preclude what we currently have in place with the governing party. This also includes your child support grant. It also includes your pensions. It also includes your disability grant. So there is no way that the EFF says that we don't believe in completely the universal grant. If you can check the numbers between that 350 that's given to government, which we think is very little, the child support grant, the disability, the foster grant, and that graduate grant, it should cover majority of the 12 million.
Thank you. We have a question in the front here. Sorry, I did forget to mention, please introduce yourself and where you are from as well.
Thank you so much. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mapena. My question is directed to Rise Mzansi. Gauteng is a province where you have a high concentration of migrants. We have children born to migrants' parents, one now above 17 years. The white paper, as presented by the minister, says that if you are an asylum seeker, you have a child born in South Africa, or you are a refugee, then you are returned to your country of origin. It proposes that such children born in South Africa should not be South Africans. What is the position of Rise Mzansi? If a child is born to migrants' parents, is now above 17, would you support the idea of them applying for South African citizenship? Thank you.
So let me start by just saying our broad view on immigration and illegal immigration is that we have a problem of poor management of immigration in our country. So we have a number of laws that are already in effect with regards to work permits, with regards to residency, and what is allowed under those dispensations, and they're just not enforced. We have people who buy IDs at Home Affairs. We have all kinds of issues that are a function of a government that cannot enforce its laws. So I'm getting to answer your question where I say, even if we enforce a law of that nature, the reality is that we have a government that is unable to enforce even the existing laws. This is why we have a perceived migration challenge right now. And actually, we do, because I think the government itself cannot tell you how many illegal migrants are here and why are they here and what are they doing and how long have they been here, etc. So my point is that I think, in my opinion, and it's not our official position, but in our... Oh.
Your time is up.
Can I just round off and say,
okay. Last 10 seconds.
A child born in this country should be able to be a citizen or a resident of this country. They should be able to apply legally and receive legal permits. Should that not happen, then they must go through the proper channels.
Thank you so much. Just let's get a bite quickly from
I saw Kenny shaking his head, so I'm keen to hear what Kenny says about this.
The problem of migrants, illegal immigration, is not perceived, it's real. It's practical, it's there. The child that is born in South Africa of migrants must go back home. You have heavily pregnant women getting on buses at Beit Bridge in Lesotho, going to Park Station, getting off Park Station, going to Rahima Musa, paying nurses 1,000 rands so that they can get on the bed. South African pregnant women lie on the floor, waiting to be attended to. And the child is born in South Africa, registered in South Africa. They get back on the bus, take the child to Zimbabwe, register the child in Zimbabwe or Mozambique or Lesotho. So the fact that the child is 17 does not matter. He or she is not a South African. They must all go back home, abahambe, with the illegal parents.
Thank you so much, Kenny Kunene. The EFF, do you have anything to rebut there from what Kenny Kunene is saying?
Yeah, the stance of the EFF is very clear, Sihle, that we don't believe in having borders that separates us as Africans. We believe that everyone that is in South Africa has the right to live in South Africa. Obviously, there are limitations, economic limitations, and any other issues that are only limited to citizens. But we should not have that approach as if we do not have a history as a people of South Africa.
Thank you so much. Lance, back to the floor.
Thank you. We had a question at the back there, and then we'll come on this side.
Good morning. My name is Ayanda Sisha-Wigzel. I have a question for the, I'll start with the PA first and then go to the IFP and the ACDP. Okay, so the PA, according to the census from 2022, 3% of the population that is living in South Africa is actually immigrants and people who are migrants. So how is it, logically speaking, that 3% of the population is responsible for the crime that is happening in this country? They're responsible for the hijacked buildings that are happening in this country. Is it not maybe that there is a government that is lacking to enforce the laws that are in place instead of maybe scapegoating foreign nationals being responsible, making sure that I remind you that we're a population of 60 million people. So how is it that 60 million people, that 3%, which is 2.4 million people, are responsible for taking all the jobs in the country? To the ACDP and to the IFP, we so rightfully pointed out that they have two or three, you can correct me if I'm wrong, women premier candidates that are going to be representing Rise Mzansi. And in South Africa, majority of the voters' roll is women. Majority of voters in this country are women. So this is open to the political parties, but specifically to the ACDP and to the IFP. The Choice of Termination and Pregnancy Act is something that we have to hold dear and sacrosanct in this country because it is a human right, according to the Human Rights Organization as well. So how is it that women are meant to vote for the ACDP and the IFP if the Choice of Termination Pregnancy Act is going to be threatened under your political organizations? I know that the IFP had a two-day conference policy meeting in Mbangeni back in December, where they said that they want to actually look at amending the Pregnancy Choice Act, as well as the ACDP, which we know has been very vocal since 1996 about their lack of wanting to have
Thank you so much,
abortion.
Ayanda. I think they've got your question. Mr. Kenny Kunene?
I don't know where you get the 3% from. If we round up our population at 60 million, that would mean that 3% is about 1.8 million. And the minister said in Parliament, South Africa has over 15 million unaccounted for migrants in this country. So there's over 15 million illegal immigrants, according to the Department of Home Affairs. So I don't know where that 3% comes from. Yes, census. All right, census then did not sense well, because the Minister of Home Affairs, who is dealing with paperwork, who is dealing with all these documents, is saying over 15 million are unaccounted for, which is a nice name, or undocumented, which is a nice word for illegal. So we have got over 20 million illegal immigrants, because that 15 million is only those that are no longer documented from being documented.
Thank you
now
so much.
you also have another 5 million of those who have jumped on the back of the crocodile that the Department of Home Affairs cannot account for. Thank you.
It's the IFP to respond. The IFP and then the ACDs.
Thank you, Mr. Mlambo. Firstly, maybe let us get the narrative. Where does it come from? The fact of us maybe disagreeing with the termination of pregnancy. As the IFP, one of our values is family values. We promote family values. We want kids to grow up in a family where there's a mother and a father. And we know currently in the situation that we are in that we've got many single parents out there and who are living in that situations. So you get a 14-year-old. A 14-year-old is a person that cannot take a decision on themselves because at that time they are a minor. So how then do you allow it as a government to allow a 14-year-old to go to a clinic, terminate that pregnancy, 4 years down the line, they regret what they have done because that is what we are dealing with after 4 years. So we promote family values
Thank you
we
so
want
much,
our,
IFP. Let's give ACDP a chance. Your time is up, sorry.
The ACDP stands foursquarely, very strongly on political principles. And I think the key word in your question is the word choice. Not to force people to do what they don't want to do. You have two sides here. You have people who choose to terminate pregnancy, but there's women who does not choose to terminate their pregnancies. I think one needs to respect the choices that people have to make, but the ACDP does not agree with termination of pregnancies at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Action SA, do you want to have a bite?
Yeah, I want to take a crack at the question on immigration. Action SA is a party that is very strong on the idea of immigration. And I would dare say that our leader was the first person to actually ensure this became a national dialogue. Even those who have strong positions today called him xenophobic when he first raised the issue. But from our point of view, we believe in a rule of law-based position. We like to believe that we occupy the center in this particular debate. To the one side of us are those who call you xenophobic just for talking about illegal immigration, and that's unacceptable. And to the other side are the individuals who want to act like quasi-law enforcement units, raiding businesses, etc., and that's equally unacceptable. It's very important that we do not scapegoat foreigners for the failure of government in South Africa. It is government that has failed to police our borders. It is government that has failed to provide services across the board, and we must make sure that that blame lands exactly where it is. But we do have immigration laws in this country, and those immigration laws are being ignored. And the most fundamental principle we need to get back to is people must come to our country legally, and when here, they must obey our laws.
Thank you so much.
That is the basis upon immigration reform.
We have a question at the back over here, and then we'll come back to the front.
Good morning. My name is Reneva Fourie, and my question is to the ANC. Gauteng is the largest economy in the country and also the 6th largest economy on the African continent. Could you please elaborate to say what is it that the ANC has done to grow the economy so much? And could you also elaborate on the special economic zones that the ANC has initiated?
Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Yes, so our strategy in the province is premised on 10 sectors that we've identified as high growth. So they include manufacturing, logistics, financial services, ICT, and others. I won't, because of time, I won't express all of them. But how to support them is through the SEZ, Special Economic Zone. We've identified 1 per developmental corridor. 2 are fully operational, with 1 being its expansion in the next, or this current financial year. That's the OR Tambo SEZ. The OR Tambo SEZ supports light manufacturing for export manufacturing. So we take raw material like gold, diamonds, etc., fresh produce, and it's manufactured, added quality, and then it's for the export market. As you know, in Gauteng, the Tshwane SEZ is the automotive manufacturer. Again, we take raw product, a lot of it locally sourced, and manufacture automotives through OEMs for the export market, all of them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mutara. There's a question here.
Question in the front over here.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Kenny, Ashley here.
So if you can, just introduce yourself.
Ashley Ozwelishe from Smith Sugulum. Kenny, just in the last 4 or 3 months, IOL has reported on kidnappings. And I think on average, we've got about 2 or 3 policemen that have been arrested per every kidnapping case. You mentioned the Serbians and you mentioned the Mozambicans. Our police are heavily involved in kidnapping cases. In Johannesburg, Gauteng, to be more specific, cops have become more feared than the criminals because they are worse than the criminals. Should we get to a point where we hold police personally accountable for corruption and where they're implicated in criminal activities? And I'm talking the attachment of their pension funds. Cops are abusing the 48-hour period that they have in terms of the Constitution. They abuse that, and people here have become victims to the very same people that should be protecting them. That's the police. You go to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court.
Let's wrap it up.
That place is in disarray. It takes about 3 months to finalize a bail application, which is supposed to be an urgent application. What is your plan for these type of institutions? And nobody has touched on the judiciary and the role that government has to play in supporting the judiciary, which is currently failing. Thank you.
During the introductory remarks, I was going to the justice system and I was cut off. I think you've summed it very well. You've answered yourself in terms of holding police accountable. Yes, the foreigners use South Africans, not only police, but other South African criminals. They get them involved in this kidnapping crime. And indeed, police must be held accountable. The biggest problem of policing starts at the top. We have no leadership. We have a country where corruption is normal. It's like when you are in government and you are not corrupt, you are not normal. You are not corrupt, you are not stealing. So we have to change the system. And changing the system means getting the ANC totally out of power so that we can redo this whole system. And then let me talk to the one of the magistrates. That includes part of the system. The judiciary is highly politicized. The judiciary does not divorce itself from politics. So it is a system that has been created by the African National Congress government. So we have to get rid of it and come up with new systems that will take this country forward.
Thank you, sir. Question at the front.
Question at the front over here.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Shadrach Mkonto from Alexandra. I've got 3 questions, but my first 2 questions is directed to the National Chairperson of Action SA. Though the first one, he already elaborated it, but I'd like him to do a double portion on it. Michael, what is Action SA policy on undocumented immigration since the party is championing the matter? The second question, what is solution of Action A to the drought since lack of water is the most factor of service delivery in the township, even in the rural areas? My last question is regard to all the panelists that are sitting here. Is there any political party amongst you who serves that is willing to go in marriage after election with the ANC? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So on that last question, we'll give you each 30 seconds. Michael Beaumont, you've got 1 second for the first question. Let's go. Minute.
So Action SA's position is very clear. Illegal immigration is illegal. And we need a government that enforces our laws and determines whether people have a right to enter our country. And if you don't have a right to be in our country, you need to be deported back home. That is how every country with the rule of law works. South Africa is no different. On water, we have a crisis in our country. We have a water crisis developing with the failure to manage projects like the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, a failure at municipal levels to deal with the pipes and the leaks that are generating 44 to 55% losses in our system, and particularly in terms of the pollution of our groundwater with the collapse of our sewerage infrastructure. This is a fundamental crisis that poses a threat to our national security and the lives of South African, and it's crept up on us while we've been dealing with an energy crisis. To answer your last question, you cannot fix the problem in partnership with the problem. Everything we're talking about today has been born of 30 years of ANC government. South Africans are going to remove the majority of the ANC in this election, and we must honor that by removing them from government and putting them in the opposition benches. It is fraud to campaign around change and then give those votes to the very party from which you say we need change.
Thank you so much. ACDP, 30 seconds.
Yeah, the ACDP is not going to determine who we're going to go into partnership coalition with now. We want to see the results of the election on 29th of May. But the ACDP says there's going to be a lot of shocks coming. The people of South Africa is definitely going to speak volumes come the 29th of May.
Thank you so much. EFF?
Thank you. You'd be aware that currently in the city of Ekurhuleni and the city of Johannesburg that we are working with the ANC and other like-minded political parties. And what has brought that was that we had a situation where the DA-led coalition in Ekurhuleni was giving our people racial-based service delivery. And we had to rescue our people from that. So in terms of after the elections, we'll make that determination after the elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The PA, you've got 30 seconds, sir.
Action SA responds to the issue of illegal immigration by throwing sponges. The PA throws stones, rocks, bazookas. We are very decisive. We will work with any party. We have been consistent. We will work with any political party that understands how we want to service our people, that understands that we want to be part of power to influence policy decision, to influence service delivery implementation. Action SA says it's 30 years of ANC, they won't work with ANC. But there's 15 years
Thank you so
of
much,
the
Mr.
DA in the
Finele.
Western Cape that has done nothing for our
Thank you, sir.
people
We'll come
except
back,
the
we'll
rich.
come back to the
Thank you.
coalition's question. Rise Mzansi, will you work with the ANC?
So we are not entering into any pre-election coalitions. Post-elections, obviously, I think everyone will be evaluating their positions, but it is important to note that we exist to restore leadership and governance in this country. And those who have failed us in leadership and governance are not going to be eligible for a coalition with us. I'd also like to share with the leader of ACDP that you are part of the multi-party charter. So I think your position was already established before answering the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mlambo.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I do feel that we do need to discuss the issue of coalitions in greater detail. I think, sorry, Sikle, and please, if you don't mind, ma'am, I know I wanted to come to this, to your question, sir. I ask that we hold off. I think there's a coalition discussion that we need to have in greater detail and greater depth. So let's finish up this round of 30 seconds and then we'll continue. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. As the IFP, we want to build a stable government. Once we have stable governments, then you are able to get service delivery to people. That is the fundamental issue. And yes, we are part of the multi-party charter, which is not a coalition. It is a group of political parties who have organized themselves and share a common vision of taking out the ANC. But when it does not mean that after election, maybe we might get 51 plus or anything. So after the elections, we will then see how then we manage those coalitions. But it's a multi-party charter.
Thank you so much.
Political parties that want to share the same ideas.
Thank you so much, Sikle. I want to start with Main Tabising and where she started. The DA doesn't believe in race-based service delivery. I'm deployed in Tembisa. On my Twitter account, for those who want to see evidence, I've put a tracker on 3 months of waste not being removed at a particular spot in Tembisa. Till today, I drove past the area, it's becoming a mountain of rubbish that has still not been collected by the ANC and EFF coalition in Ekurhuleni. So when we came into government, we had to stabilize the finances of a government that was bankrupt, that was in the red. When we were taken out of government, when EFF chose to go with EFF, the bank balance was positive. It is now back in the red again. But I won't go further into that. In terms
Okay,
of
your
our
time is up. Thank you so much.
No,
Let's
to
just
answer the coalition issue quickly.
10
On the
seconds.
issue of coalition, I won't repeat what my neighbor has said, but we know that it takes 2 weeks to set up governments after an election. So we started reaching out to like-minded political parties to say, we know the objective of this election is to rescue South Africa, and I use the word rescue intentionally. So let's start, no, I'm getting there, please leave me to respond. Let's ensure that we start reaching out to like-minded political parties so that when we have that 2-week threshold, because we know we are moving into an era of coalition governments, then we already have done the basics of what is necessary, what are
Okay,
our
thank you so much,
core
dear. We've given you
visions.
plenty of time.
But definitely not the ANC, because the whole
Okay.
the whole point is to unseat
Thank you so much, the DA.
the ANC.
This is obviously quite an emotional subject. Are we going to stay on coalitions? The ANC, you're already co-governing with the EFF and the Patriotic Alliance in Ekurhuleni and the city of Johannesburg. Are these your ideal partners going forward after this election?
So
1 minute.
our ideal partners are those who we can establish a government with basic principles that we can all agree on. The current coalition in Ekurhuleni is not the first coalition. So the previous term of government in Ekurhuleni, we had a coalition, very stable. It was established on principles. It was established on mutual understanding of what is priority and what we all need to agree on. So as long as we can agree on those established principles, hold each other accountable, and understand what it is that we seek to achieve, we'll enter into those coalitions. But
In
stability...
short, if you dip below 50%, you're still willing to work with the EFF?
With parties that we can establish a stable government established on pre-agreed principles, yes.
Even if that's Ms. Ncheka at the DA?
They must agree on those principles. If they agree on the principles, then yes. If they don't, we can't. Because it's going to, if they agree on those principles. If they can't, it's going to equate to instability and politicized service delivery.
Thank you so much. Michael, who is your most ideal partner? We just heard now that the multi-party charter is not a coalition. What's your response to that? Who do you want
We've
to work
answered
with?
that question, and I must say, not because we like the other parties in the multi-party charter, but because we love the South African people. And because we love the South African people, we must be willing to do what South Africans do every day. And that's work with people you might not like for the betterment of your country, your neighborhood, your church, whatever it may be. So we've defined a group of parties in the multi-party charter that we will work with. There are other parties that we've invited to join who we think belong in that group as well. And I'm very alarmed to sit here and listen to partners of mine who've signed an agreement that says we will not entertain a working relationship with the ANC, and it appears they very much are entertaining. From our point of view, we are saying to the South African people, a vote for Action SA will never be used to keep the ANC in government, and the South African people can know that that X will be used in that way.
Bishop Adams, some strong words there from Action SA. Your response, sir?
Yeah, I don't know about that coalition agreement that was signed. For me, we have said as the ACDP, nationally and provincially, I don't know where Michael gets that from, that we will not sign any coalition agreements till after the elections. So he has a view and we have a view, but we are in the multi-party charter. But let me say this, I think in the multi-party charter, in what needs to come right seriously is the fight between the DA and the Action SA, which holds back a lot of the progress in this province. That needs to be fixed very seriously, and we need to make sure that we build a South Africa, which he speaks about, that will be beneficial to all the people in this country. Personal issues must be left out of politics, and we must make sure that we build South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the DA. We're still on this coalition's discourse. We'll come back to the EFF, don't worry. It sounds like there's a bit of a separation going on. How do you progress from here? Is the Moonshot Pact still intact?
Yes, we're 100% still intact. We're going into an election. Everybody is an individual organization. They will fight their election. But like I said to you, it takes 2 weeks to put together a government. So proactively, these like-minded organizations have said, for the interest of South Africa, let's look at the principles that unite us in order to rescue South Africa from the ANC, categorically from the ANC, okay? And so we started having multiple meetings of where do we have alignments, what do we want to see happening in South Africa, and obviously I can't expose details of the multi-party charter, but the reality is we know that on service delivery there's principles that we agree on. That's why we are in the multi-charter and how we will plan to move forward on those issues. And we will fight elections individually as organizations. So yes, Michael and I might disagree here and there, but post-elections, we will have a working relationship. There's no siblings that don't fight in a family, but the point is to rescue South Africa. And that is the priority from the trenches of the ANC, because we can see South Africa is reversing its way under the leadership of the ANC.
Thank you so much. The EFF, you get your bite now. Are you willing to work with the ANC? Or the DA for that matter?
Yeah, what we need to understand is that the trajectory has completely changed. And we worry that the MEC, when she speaks of the ANC, she's still under the impression that they still have the numbers. We still have that posture of numerical arrogance that should not be used at this time. As we said before, as the EFF, we are going to be working with any party that puts the people first, that we can agree on the basic principles. What are the basic principles? Because we need to understand that we are definitely not going to have a majority party after the 29th of May. So there is no one party that is going to have their manifesto being given to them as a mandate to execute. So we need to understand on the basics. We need to understand on water provision. We need to understand on 24-hour clinics. We need to understand on sanitation, have an understanding on sanitation. So those basics, and they are not very complex. I believe right now that it is not a matter of principles and all these things that other parties are coming up with. It's a matter of them having some sort of attitudes to other political parties.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's give Rise Mzansi a bite and then we'll, okay, let's go with you, Mr. Kunene. Let's go with ladies first. Okay, thank you so much. Chivalry isn't dead. Rise Mzansi, you are not part of any coalition, pre-agreement, moonshot pact, multi-party charter, whatever you call it, alignment of the left, alignment of the right, alignment of the centrists. Who do you prefer to work with post the elections?
So we believe that the citizens of South Africa and of Gauteng actually deserve new leaders. The leaders that we have demonstrated that they lack the maturity, often the capability, and the willingness to work together towards a common vision and the betterment of our people. We think that the old concepts of left and right, this and that one, need to be dispensed with. We need to usher in a new era of leadership in our country that has young, fresh, capable, energetic leadership at the forefront of it, and people who are willing to work together to make our country better. So that is our project. If we don't find ourselves even in government, we are not power hungry. And we will do our work from the opposition benches if need be. But we will never compromise our ethics just to be able to get positions and power.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the IFP and then we'll close with Mr. Kunene. The IFP, lots of tension between your multi-party charter partners. How do you proceed?
We, in the multi-party charter, we don't deal with tensions, but we promote that we must look at the vision of what South Africa we want to see, what Gauteng we want to see. And as I have said before, that we want to build a stable government, especially in Gauteng and in the national. You can't do that then when you go with the arrogance of saying, I'm going to get 52% or the majority of the votes in Gauteng and so forth, and not look at the dynamics that are happening and all the political parties that are there and playing in that mind. But as the multi-party charter, yes, we are together as like-minded parties that would want to work in Gauteng, in South Africa, and to see the government working for the people and bringing service delivery. But in an essence that it does not happen like that. And maybe as a multi-party charter, we don't get 51%, because remember when we go to campaigns, we go with our own ideologies as political parties. We do our own door-to-door with our own manifestos independently so. So we don't know what is going to happen after that, but we are in the multi-party charter, and if we do get 51%, we are going to form a government that will take out the current
Thank you
government.
so much. Let's close with Mr. K.
Must stop fooling our people. The DA has got 2 boyfriends or girlfriends. It is the multi-charter, multi-party charter, and it is the ANC, because they have publicly said that they are talking to the ANC, and in principle, they would go in coalition with the ANC. Stian Hazen has said that several times. Number 2, the PA has been very consistent. The ANC is a devil as we see it, and the DA is a devil as we see it. And there is no better devil between the 2 of them. But because we don't have the numbers to have a majority, we will work with these devils so that we can service our people. But as we are in coalitions with them, we continuously outshine them with our performance in servicing our people, to show the people that stop voting for this devil that has embarrassed, that has frustrated you for so long. Vote for us, give us a majority so that we can do more. So indeed, there's a coalition era. We will work with any party that understands how we want to service the people.
So much,
but our first prize is to be in a coalition, nationally or in provinces, that excludes the DA and the ANC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So obviously the coalition discussion has sparked a number of hands. I need to ask, I would like to get to as many questions as possible. So if I can ask that your questions are posed very succinctly and quickly. I did put you on hold, sir. So we'll take a question very quickly, please. If you can keep your question to between 30 and 30 seconds and a minute, and then we'll go to the back, the lady with her hand raised up. Bakamile, is that you? Yes? We'll take a question from Bakamile. So those 2 questions, we'll answer them, and then we'll ask a couple more. Yes, and then we'll come to you as well.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. My name is Tumela. I'm from the Inkatha Freedom Party. Since you've given me 30 seconds, I'd like to direct my question to the EFF. You've just mentioned that now you are willing to work with any party that's going to put people first. Now, are those people South Africans? Because I think we know that what your policy is with regards to that. And the word on the ground, it wants put South Africans first, but it sounds like that's falling on deaf ears with regards to the EFF. And then lastly, Julius Malema was out saying that should the ANC not get 50% of the national vote, he's more than willing to give his vote to the ANC, provided that they make Floyd Shivambu the Minister of Finance. So why is it that the EFF is so quick to run after the money instead of a department that's more service delivery oriented, like your health and your transport? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. Service delivery is a service that's supposed to be available for anyone that needs the service. We are very clear about the issue that everyone wants to pin on the EFF of immigration and so on. It is the responsibility of a government to ensure that the issue of immigration is handled properly. And it is equally the responsibility of a government to be able to take care of any person that is within the borders of their country. The issue of service delivery, linked to what you are saying about the Commander-in-Chief said, which is indeed true. There is no service delivery that you are going to get if you don't have revenue that you are collecting, if you don't have the economy that is viable. The issue of Deputy President Floyd Shibambu being the finance minister is linked to activating the economy that will ensure that South Africa has an economy that is growing, that is able to take care of all of us, that is able to give us enough employment for our people. That is the point.
Thank you so much. Your time is up. We've got a question at the back.
Question at the back, Pakamile.
Thank you so much. My name is Pagamile. I'm the spokesperson for NUMSA. NUMSA is the largest trade union in South Africa, representing over 300,000 workers. I'm curious to understand, first of all, we have two questions. As a union, we care very much about state-owned entities and their capacity to create jobs, build value chains, and develop the economy. We believe that the government must intervene so that we can develop these jobs. When SAA was at its height, it created over 24,000 jobs along the value chain. Since they crashed it and liberalized it and tried to privatize it, it does not play its role anymore. This is the case also with Eskom. I'd like the panelists to please comment on their position with regards to state-owned entities and what their role will be in relation to building the South African economy. Secondly, I'd also like the panelists to talk about Palestine. What's happening in Palestine is a genocide. And I think there are parties that are busy pushing this narrative that somehow Israel is a victim. Israel is not a victim. This is an apartheid state that is massacring people, innocent people, on a large scale. And we don't want to hear any wishy-washy positions. I'd like Rise Mzansi in particular to be very clear. Do you support genocide and mass murder of innocent people, or are you against apartheid Israel? Thank you
so much, Pagamile.
Thank you. I think, Sihle, let's do 30 seconds on each question, state-owned enterprises, and then Palestine.
Okay, let's let the governing party start.
Our position on Palestine is well known. We are against everything that Israel is doing and has been doing. We support the Palestinian cause and have championed through government the ICJ case, and will continue to advocate for a free Palestinian people. Secondly, on the position of the ANC as it relates to SOEs. So SOEs we identify definitely as strategic assets of the country. They have to play a role in not only skills but capabilities, as well as making us as a country globally competitive. What needs to be addressed is in some of them, the structural issues that they may have. We have many more SOEs than just the Eskom and the Transnet who actually do very well. They are governed well, they perform well. They also have got instances of good balance sheets, etc. Those practices need to be replicated across, and of course,
Thank you so much, MEC. Your
SOEs
time
will
is up.
continue to play a role in South Africa.
Almost want to give some of my time to get one or two of the names of these SOEs. But, you know, let's be clear, there's over 120 SOEs in South Africa, and immediately a new government that is interested in reform needs to conduct an audit. That audit needs to determine the strategic value of those SOEs vis-a-vis our needs as a country in terms of job creation and service delivery, and their viability after 30 years of misgovernance in many cases. And then a decision must be made about the future of that SOE. There's no question like SOEs like Eskom and PRASA are vital to our national interests. The government needs to control a majority share of those SOEs, and we need to invest in them and fix the misgovernance issues that have been so profound. But we also need to ask ourselves, in a country with the problems that we have, should we be bailing out a SOE like Denel to the amount of billions every year when arms manufacturing and research is not really central to our national strategy? This is a fundamental question that we think needs to be posed, and it needs to be the work of a reform government. As it relates to the conflict, we are fundamentally of the view that international relations must be governed by the human rights agenda. We believe in a peaceful two-state solution, and from the beginning, we called out the attacks on the 7th of October, and we have would like to finish the point, please. And we have equally called out the horrendous loss of life that has followed in response to those attacks. We believe in a negotiated peace, we believe in a ceasefire, and we respect the court, and we will respect the outcomes of that court. But we also want to say South Africa is a country that needs to have a more localized position in the global community.
All right,
We
thank
are
you
a
so much,
country
Actually, sir.
that
Your
is
time is up.
fundamentally failing to provide
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
services
sir.
to our
Let's
own
hear from the
people. And we need to
ACDP.
look inwardly to resolve those problems before we run around the world solving problems that we can't fix here.
We
home
might
yet.
need Boniso Duma from the ANC to snatch the mic from Mr. Boermont. ACDP, go ahead.
Yeah, so the ACDP, you know our stance when it comes to the conflict in Gaza. The ACDP is clear in terms of that we are working very hard and we pray for a lasting solution for peace in the conflict in Gaza. It's not right for life to be lost on both sides, whether it be in Israel, whether it be in Palestine. It's not right. The sanctity of life needs to be preserved. So the ACDP says very clearly is that we believe there must be a two-state solution for the people of Gaza. And let me say this, for many of you sitting here from the black African background and white African background, doesn't understand the complexities and dynamics of the colored people. And that's where the problem is. Because we have families that is Muslims. We have families that is Jews. We find ourselves in a very difficult, complex situation as a people. But we must stand for what we believe as the ACDP. We say that we want peace in Gaza. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. EFF?
Thank you. We need to be very clear that an injustice is an injustice. And the EFF stands with the people of Palestine. That's why we put a motion in Parliament for the closure of the Israeli embassy in South Africa. So we are very clear that we stand with the people of Palestine, and we are an internationalist community as the people of South Africa. We know we are from an apartheid system ourselves, so it's very strange that we cannot now be very clear that we want apartheid that's in Gaza to stop. So we are very concerned about some of the utterances, but we stand with the people of Palestine. And in terms of the issue of state-owned entities, we need to ensure that we overhaul the entire system and put competent people in to be able to run those entities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Patriotic Alliance.
State-owned entities. The economic policy and system of the ANC seeks to destroy all public-owned enterprises and hand them over to the private sector. We saw with SAA, we hear now with Telkom that they are talking about MTN getting a stake. We see with Eskom what they are doing. We have seen with PRASA. It is a system that has given an emergence of many private security companies. The police stations are even guarded by private security companies. That is how useless the NC government sees itself. So we will make sure that the state-owned entities are not privatized. We will strengthen them with competent people and make sure that the people of South Africa don't lose what they own to the private sector. Israel and Palestine, we've been very clear that we support a two-state solution. It's very funny that people will talk about South Africa having found each other coming from apartheid. We have accepted our colonizers. We are having tea with them. They are even controlling the current government, our colonizers. We have found each other. So in Israel, our position is one, that we support a two-state solution. But I've also never seen it between two countries where a government declares war. When war is brought to that government, it's called genocide.
Time is up, sir. Thank you so much. Rise Mzansi.
Thank you.
So to the first question, Rise Mzansi's, let me say, economic orientation is that we support a social market economy whereby the state plays a critical role in closing the developmental gaps that we see from inequality, transformation, etc. And the state-owned entities obviously play a very important role in aiding government in driving its developmental agenda. We are suffering currently from privatization by incompetence. Our government is incompetent and cannot run these entities. And furthermore, they use them as sources of just lining their pockets and the pockets of their corrupt networks. And this is why we are suffering from a debilitation of the state-owned entities. So our view is that we need a capable, functional state to be able to carry out a truly developmental agenda in South Africa.
Your position on Gaza, quickly, your
Number
time is
two,
running out.
no, we do not support genocide. We have repeatedly made our position known that we have called for an immediate ceasefire. We have called, of course, for any hostages to be released. And we have also said that fundamentally this is a human rights issue. And as a country that has committed to human rights, and our constitution speaks extensively about that, we cannot be okay with what is happening in Gaza. That is our position.
IFP.
Thank you. As the IFP, we believe in a free market system. On the SOEs, and my sister touched on also trade unions, we believe that government and private sector must work together in order to bring the economy of the country. And SOEs especially, we've seen with the mismanagement, we must restructure then all SOEs and rebuild, because we cannot have a government that will keep on having bailouts time and again on each and every of these SOEs. I'm not sure which ones are functional because I've never heard of one. There's post office. Post office can barely function. It is in disarray.
Your time is running
with
out. Your
everything.
position on Gaza,
So,
quickly, ma'am.
no, we believe in a two-party state. Thank you.
The DA.
Thanks, Sihle. Let me start on the issue of Gaza and Palestine. The DA, as an example, is a party that has multi-religions, from Jewish people, Muslims, Christians, and we've called for peace and a ceasefire. But from the onset, we've always believed there needs to be a two-state solution in the area, peaceful transition. With regards to the state-owned entities, it's important to have proper analysis of the viability of state-owned entities. Some should remain as state-owned entities if they are viable and performing properly. And I want to use SAA as an example, Pagamile. I used to work for SAA as a marketing manager for 4 years. At that time, it was a bit profitable, but I can tell you when you politicize state-owned entities and they continue to need bailouts, it's a problem, because what are you getting that money from? South African children are dying in pit toilets. In the Eastern Cape, there are places where children are still schooling under trees. Now you bail out an entity that is not able to be profitable, and you're taking money away from eradicating pit toilets, building schools for our children. So those kind of state entities should not be bailed out.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go back to the floor. We are running out of time. We've got a gentleman here at the front.
Okay, well, thanks for...
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Thabo Mopasi. I'm from Alexander Peace Ambassadors. I represent a constituency from Alexander of 750,000 people, where we come from. My issue here is with regard to ethics, politicians. Politicians who don't have morals promise communities things, 1 million houses, and don't deliver at the ultimate end. So my position here, it's very clear. Zandi, Kenny, wanted to know very clearly on this matter pertain to what is your position on issue of land in Alexander?
Thank you so much.
Land and human settlement for the people of Alexander Township in particular, because of the situation of our people.
Sorry, just to confirm, it's IFP and who? And
EFF and Brakeni there.
Oh, it's Brakeni, so sorry. Okay, let's go to the PA and then to the EFF.
The issue of land in Alexandra is a critical one. An injustice has been done in Alexandra where containers were put there for housing on a soccer ground. hence there were no services that could be put there because the place was never rezoned properly. And we obviously need to then expand the human settlements program in Alexandra. But you have the old Alexandra that has got backroom dwellers, which has led to a overcrowding in the old Alexandra. I have engaged with you and other stakeholders in Alexandra as to how do we resolve that problem. And I think those talks are ongoing. But it is for people of Alexandra to tell us how do we resolve the issue of backroom dwellers so that some of them can be relocated to a new area where land is allocated to build a human settlement.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
Mr.
much.
Gunen. And the EFF?
Thank you. The most important thing to state is that the EFF does not believe in informal settlements. So our solution to the issue of Alexandra is that we need to ensure that everyone is put on the database and we remove everyone from that settlement and put them on a temporary space. Then we go and clear the land, do the geotags and whatever that needs to happen, and then we build high-rise buildings. I believe that will assist us in removing your bucket toilet system that the ANC now calls a portable toilet system. It will save majority of our children and equally eradicate most of the health issues that are around the Alexandra area. So the permanent solution is to give the people of Alexandra a high-rise building whereby they are able to settle there with their families. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to the floor.
We've got a question here in the front. There's
Oh, sorry,
gentleman with
the
mic,
DA
but
wants
the
to
DA
have a
wants
mic.
Yeah, but you must give us time to answer questions. You guys have been answering 8 questions every answer.
Just hang on, sir. Just let them answer quickly and then we'll come back to you.
No, but I think the gentleman here has said the IFP, EFF, and the PA.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. First and foremost, it is wrong for government to come and promise 1 million houses and not build those houses. Firstly, they were supposed to do a survey on Alexandra as a whole. Alexandra, we must be realistic, it's congested, it's got backroom dwellers and the owners. Some of the other owners maybe do not stay there, but how in their land, how then do you compensate them to make sure that they give you the land as the government and you are able to build on that one? I'm very worried when the EFF says it does not support informal settlements when they are the ones who are saying people must go and occupy land wherever they see fit, where there's no basic services. But all in all, it is that the government must then, as the IFP, will find a space where we are able to build houses for the people of Alexandra. But those who own land in Alexandra, we should be able to then communicate with them and say that, can we buy your land? And then we are able to build houses for the people of Alexandra so that the congestion, we're able to deal with it.
Thank you so much. Let's give the DA a bite and then the gentleman at the front will have his question.
Thank you very much. I know the question was not tabled to me, but I would like to tell you that the DA has a different solution to some of these problems that you're raising. For example, there was an Alexandra renewal project. Money went disappeared. I think over 3 billion rand. That money, people need to be held to account of what happened to it. Secondly, in Gauteng, we have over 350 RDP projects that have been abandoned. You know why? Some of it is because of the construction mafias that nobody's taking up and fighting. So if you completed those housing projects, you would actually start easing the pressure of housing in the province holistically. Thirdly, I did a master's and in the Cape, DA in Western Cape is starting to implement this. Conrad is an abandoned hospital in Cape Town. We've got a lot of high-rise buildings. MEC Motara will know, some of them belong to the Department of Infrastructure Development that are sitting as white elephants in the CBD of Johannesburg. These buildings belong to government. It doesn't take a lot to actually renovate, repurpose into houses that people can live closer to work because a lot of companies are operating in the CBDs. And then you start decreasing the congestion. Instead of looking for new land to build a high-rise building in Alex, where are you going to find that land? You've got high-rise buildings in the CBD of Johannesburg.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. I know we're pressed for time, but I'm going to take a bit of a bite. I'm going to give you a thorough introduction of myself, because I consider myself to be an active South African that carries a vast amount of authority, and I think you should be appreciated as I point questions to you. My name is Batuka Mbelengwa. I'm an activist at the forefront of an industry referred to as e-hailing. I'm recognized as an industry leader within this space, an industry which is worth billions, but I can't be supported and funded within my country to participate. We can't find laws and legislature to help us. Our politicians are not showing any will, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm an entrepreneur and I employ over 50 people. So I produce the solutions you promise us. Let's be clear on that position. Michael Beaumont, I want to start with asking you some questions that speak directly to matters of infrastructure as you touched on it. So what I think is missing in the general narrative in the room today is language that speaks to future solutions. Technology isn't a political campaign, it's a real thing that's changing industries, that's producing jobs. So when you speak to infrastructure, what's the tech integration or what's the tech policy position that you aim to assume for this country, so we are then protected and included in the opportunities that therefore avail, that we are more than capable of rolling out, should we have the right legal and political will and legal infrastructure on our end. To the PA, to the PA, you mentioned factories, mining, also transport, tech, ANC, your special economic zones. I think we need to focus on inclusion. What are the minimum qualifying criteria for local entrepreneurs like myself that don't surpass the 50 million rand threshold? Please, 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 we're here to engage, my brother. We don't surpass the 50 million rand threshold, but we can't be included within those spaces. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much.
We can't be included within those spaces.
Let's hear the responses. We press for time. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I mean, I'm going to do the best I can in terms of the question, but there's so many ways of interpreting it. I'm very happy to engage afterwards if I haven't scratched the itch, so to speak. But I think certainly technology has a vital role to play from a government standpoint, and I think particularly to ensure that government services are being rendered in the most effective ways. The value that can be derived from having your government departments of a health and education nature in particular connected to one another through the effective rollout of Wi-Fi is massive, and the ability to render those services is improved so much more from a customer-centric point of view. We also know that the rollout of free Wi-Fi across the country is a major driver of economic activity. I think I've read a report that said for every 10% rollout of Wi-Fi access for citizens, you can achieve a corresponding 1% increase in economic growth. Wi-Fi needs to be a fundamental right for all South Africans. It needs to be free, it needs to be accessible, and we need to connect people so that they aren't spending so much of their household income on the cost of data.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beaumont. The ANC?
So yes, our SEZs, a big component of it is localization and local ownership. So if you look at the Tambo SEZ, of all the companies that are manufacturing there, I think there's only 3 that are non-South African. The rest are all South African owned. In fact, we've got the first black diamond buyer who's established at the SEZ. And so transformation, but in a very practical and meaningful way, is very important in the SEZs. But essentially, it's about incentivizing the private sector and attracting investment. That's what is it about. And if you incentivize them, there has to be conditions that are laid and put down, which we do have and have put in amongst all of them. And we look whether it's, if you're using which policy to be able to achieve that, we do that, but it's a non-negotiable.
Okay, thank you so much. We are pressed for time. We are going to have closing statements from each of the candidates on stage. Maybe let's start with Rise Mzansi. What is your final message to the people of Gauteng? 1 minute, man. Sorry, 30 seconds.
In the upcoming election, we have a real opportunity to vote for our future as the citizens of this country and the voters. What has transpired in the past, we can't fix. We have 30 years of mess that we now have to start fixing. But the only way we can do that is if we vote for new leaders, leaders who can actually take us forward, leaders who will be there in 30 years. We need to ensure that we invest not just for ourselves, but also for our children, and think about leaders who have a plan, leaders who are ethical, who are credible, and who are competent.
Thank you so much, Rise Mzansi. Patriotic Alliance?
The time is now. 2024 is our 1994. The 29 May Kenzie is a very important date, an appointment with your future. Gaten McKenzie, as the president, has demonstrated whilst he was the mayor of Central Karoo that he is a practical leader. He's a leader who brings solutions. I have demonstrated as the MMC of Transport in the city of Johannesburg that I'm a practical leader and I bring solutions. Vote for Patriotic Alliance. We are the only party that is defined by its name, the love of South Africa and its citizens. Vote for PA for a better, prosperous South Africa.
Thank
Salute.
you, Mr. Kunene. Let's go to the IFP.
Thank you. The IFP is calling on Gauteng communities to join us in these critical elections that are coming, and for us to be able to rebuild South Africa in Gauteng communities, for us to be able to bring service delivery to the people of Gauteng, and for us to be able to build more houses for people of Gauteng, and make sure that we combat the issue of crime, unemployment, and bring the province to a stable province that is able to deliver on its service.
Thank you so much. The DA?
Thank you very much. The DA has a plan. We're not in government yet in Gauteng. Part of our plan includes even having an agreement with our Western Cape government where we know we might not be perfect. We know we don't do everything 100% right, but we're certainly doing better than everywhere else in the country, deliver the best municipalities and the best provincial governments. We are going to bring our skills from Western Cape to assist us in building Gauteng, and we're already in 2 years of training as ready to govern. And we have always said we believe in devolution of police because we want our people to be safe. We want to bring policing closer to our people. We want to arrest water shedding and electricity. With electricity, I've mentioned earlier in my discussion about how we will bring in independent power producers and diversify with renewable energies.
Thank you so much to the DA. We've heard you. Let's go to the ACDP.
Thank you so much. As the ACDP, we are eternally optimistic for South Africa. We pray for South Africa. We pray for peace in these elections. We pray no bloodshed will take place in these elections. We pray that South Africa is not totally broken. South Africa can be rebuilt again. We make an appeal to everybody, not just political parties, but the entire country, the 60 million people in South Africa, the 27.6 million that must vote. Let us vote right. Let us rebuild South Africa for our next generations. Thank you.
Amen. Let's go to the EFF.
No, thank you very much. A vote for the EFF is a vote for land to be returned to its rightful owners. It's a vote for jobs to be available for all who qualify for jobs. It is a vote for the restoration of energy in our country that drives the economy. The EFF is asking for your vote just for the 5 years, not more than that. We have demonstrated in the city of Ekurhuleni, which is the best run municipality in Gauteng, and we have seen our people who are running the worst run municipality in Gauteng claiming that we are not doing that.
Thank you so much to the
Thank
EFF.
you.
And to close off, we're going to go to the governing ANC. Did we not start with, okay, sorry, let's Michael, and then we close with the ANC.
Okay, so Action SA is a new political party. We don't form part of a failed political establishment of 30 years, but also we're a tested new political party. We contested the local government elections in Gauteng, only 3 of the 9 municipalities, and emerged with just under 12% of the vote in that election. We are now contesting in all 9 provinces, and obviously right throughout Gauteng. We are going to be a serious force to be reckoned with here. We are led by somebody who's not just said he can do it, he's actually done it. The best time in Joburg's history was between 2016 and 2019 when Herman Mashaba was the mayor, and we can implement those solutions from a Gauteng standpoint. Action SA occupies the abandoned center of South African politics. Political parties here have moved out. The majority of South Africans in the center have been left behind. We represent those people, and those people are going to put Action SA in government.
Let's close off with the ANC.
Thank you so much. A vote for the ANC would mean defending our democracy and our democratic gains. defending the human rights that we have all benefited from. A vote for the ANC would mean that an expansion of the services that have extended to all South Africans, an increase in professionals, increase in skills, and increase in the expansion of a black middle class that has benefited from the policies of the ANC, and
with
that to expand to all South Africans.
Time is up. Over to you, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panelists, our political representatives here today. I want to extend a personal thank you to each and every one of you for availing your time and for honoring the invitation to join us at our IOL panel discussion ahead of elections on May 29th. To all of those in the audience here present who did not have an opportunity to ask your questions, you are more than welcome to write to us, and we're open to accepting your opinion pieces and your letters. You can email opinion@iol.co.za. You can also email info@iol.co.za. Thank you very much for joining us here in our Joburg event, and please do join us on Tuesday again in Cape Town on April the 30th. Have a wonderful day further. Thank you.